Okay, and welcome back. Hour number 2. I'm going to go talk to Joel Skousen this hour about things that are not pleasant to talk about. I don't know that I can see anything in the next 5 or 6 months that is going to be constructive in any way toward diffusing what we're being obviously orchestrated into, which is a massive conflict in this country at some point. It seems to get a little closer each day. Hello, Joel. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jeff. It's always good to be with you on a Wednesday night.
Thank you. We've got news that you saw the story of the little white toddler, and the black man had his knee on the little toddler's neck trying to promote Black Lives Matter on social media. I don't know if you saw that or not. They've arrested the guy. They found him. They got him. So,
Boy, yeah. That takes gall.
Yeah. Well, they've got a lot of gall. They have a lot of money too. That's the other part that people just don't understand. These communists are always funded. They were funded in 1916, 17 in Russia, and they overthrew the government, and they're being funded right now, right today. And here's a story. Let me pull this up real quick.
By globalists, by the way.
Oh yeah. Here, hold on a second. This is a little video. It's only 1 minute long, but there's an Antifa tough guy, a white guy. It could be a Zoomer, 25-ish. And listen to what he says about who's bailing them out of jail. All right? This is interesting.
By the way, mutual combat laws in Oregon, you guys know about? Yeah. Well, I don't know what the laws are. I know in Washington, you can throw down the gauntlet. By the way, the offer still stands. Any of you motherfucking cops in fucking Washington State, you understand you like putting your hands on me? I know they love to put their hands all over me. Go toe-to-toe with me, motherfucker. Don't tackle me from behind. Any one of you, any day, any time, any place, let's fucking go. You know what I'm saying?
That's the mutual combat they're talking about is if somebody says, hey, I want to fight you, and they say, yeah, I want to fight you, as long as they have a third party that witnesses that and says, all right, cool, like you'll see it in front of the police. They have to stand back and let it happen.
I apologize about the language, but you've all heard it before. Here comes the important part now.
Anytime.
Yeah. Then let me see your arm real quick. This is something you're seeing on people. Now, why do you have this?
Because
there's a tattoo on his forearm of numbers.
National Lawyers Guild has us all hooked up, man. You go to jail, fuck them. You just call this number with your one phone call. I'm gonna get this tattooed. The Northwest Bail Fund is fucking flooded right now, flush with cash, and they just get you right the fuck out. My buddy Jesse got in on 2 felonies, like fucking 12 counts on shit, right, including assaulting an officer. He was out that day. No sweat.
Okay, you get the idea. I just said it, and I repeat it. These communist agitators, they're not agitators, they're criminals, all right? They're just thugs. They're criminals, that's it. They're paid. There's a huge amount of international globalist money, maybe billions, well, Soros, behind all this. This has been planned for decades. This didn't just happen in the last year or two. It's a long-term planning, all tied into the virus pandemic, all of it. So understand that these people are being bailed out as soon as they're booked, practically. The Lawyers Guild. Just remember that. And I, again, apologize
National
about
Lawyers
the language.
Guild, it's always been a Marxist communist front ever since the 30s and 40s, National Lawyers Guild. But the big money's coming from the globalists, people like Soros and others. And, of course, the globalist-controlled press is what's goading all these Democratic mayors to allow this, to stand down the police, not to protect private property. And the courts have ruled that the police have no obligation to protect you, even though you have to pay your taxes for their services.
Oh, no, they don't have to answer any 9/11 call. Here's another one. The mayor of Portland has demonstrated repeatedly how weak a person that is. And now a communist community organizer has apparently forced a runoff in Portland with the mayor. And the communist community organizer says, I am Antifa. Sarah Inarone, it looks like. She's an Antifa mayor candidate. She's going to be in a runoff with the already terribly weak mayor of Portland. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a shame from having been raised in the Portland area. You know, it was fairly conservative in those days. It's just been overrun with California liberals moving away from California.
They did. They took it over 20 years ago. They moved up. Yeah. They took over Portland. They own it now, and they came right out of L.A. You got it.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that, you know, it's the radical left that is driving the agenda now, not the mainstream liberals, but they are, how should I say, susceptible to this rhetoric. You know, that's why they're promoting Black Lives Matter when it really isn't a Black Lives Matter. It's about overthrowing the system. And you have these protesters, they just hate the system. They hate the system that judges them as druggies and problem people. I talked about last week in the World Affairs Brief, this manager of the Marriott Hotel who talked about all these paid demonstrators come into the hotel in a very conservative community, and they were all from out of town. They all had cash.
Big rolls of money.
$200 and $300 rooms, and they trashed them. Drug paraphernalia, feces on the floor, food dumped on the floor. I mean, these are the kinds of the people that are supposedly caring about Black lives. They don't care a bit about Black lives. These people are there to destroy the system.
And they're being aided and abetted by white liberal ignorance. I'll be charitable. It's just the same old theme. America's white liberals they're one layer deep, and that's the end of it. There's very few of them that can speak on anything of any substance beyond a few recorded messages, soundbite type things. And that's just the way it always is. Nothing new. Same old stuff. Portland has banned its police from working with these federal law enforcement personnel. By the way, there are more than a few people calling these DHS, federal law enforcement personnel, troops, like they're military troops. They're not military troops. They're federal law officers. And some of them may have been blinded by these lasers in Portland, blinded for life. They're in the hospital. And I'm sure some of the liberals are cheering and laughing about that. So that's assault and more. These are major crimes that are going on all the time. It's not just simple graffiti spraying. And my God, the amount of damage done to Portland is, I've seen some videos that the last 5-6 minutes, just block after block after block. Nothing but graffiti on every building, all the sidewalks, every planter. If there's any kind of a sculpture or statue left, they're all trashed. So yeah, this is big money, big damages, big crime, not simple protests. It's the last thing in the world it is.
Well, and as we talked about 2 weeks ago, there's starting to be an exodus from these cities. The sale of the new 4th edition of Strategic Relocation continues to go off the charts as people are desperate to get out of these big cities. And a lot of the conservatives are leaving Portland. Yeah.
Excuse me, that's the plan. The communists want to take down the big cities. They want to just trash them so the parts of the city's populace that actually are responsible, care, do things, they flee, they go. And that'll leave the rest of the city to fall into a third world cesspool real fast. That's what they want. They want to take these cities down. And they're well on the way with Seattle, Portland, Minneapolis, Baltimore, New York, Chicago is going. Lizard Lightfoot wants to secede, remove Chicago from the go ahead, go.
Yes, please go.
Secede, please. Yeah. And New York City with communist Bill de Blasio. Oh, please. That city, yes, intelligent, mature residents of that city are getting the hell out. I had a call from one person in New York today, and they're just they want de Blasio gone. They want to withdraw somehow their support, get him bounced from office, and they don't know what to do. It's 2 years before the next election, apparently. So they're going to have to try to no. There's too many non-citizen residents there, and they're. By the way, last hour. We talked about the fact that Bill Geen mentioned that they're counting all illegals in the census and they're going to apportion new congressional districts on the basis of they're counting heads. They don't care if they're citizens of this country or not. See, that's patently unconstitutional.
Indeed, it is. And that's why it was important to have a citizenship question on there, which the Trump administration failed to do.
I don't know. All right.
But if one of the reasons they want Trump out so bad is not just because he's slowed down the globalist agenda, but if the Democrats gain control of the presidency and the House and perhaps even the Senate, and boy, I'll tell you, the rules will change. They will expand the Supreme Court to overcome the conservative majority.
Oh, they'll have 15,
now.
16 members. You watch.
Yeah, just like FDR did. Expand
There's
the
no
Supreme
limit.
Court.
For those of you who don't know, they can put as many on the Supreme Court as they want, basically. I don't know of any limit.
Yeah. And they will add 2 more states to the Union. They'll add Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, and you'll have 2 more Democratic senators. In each state, that's 4 more.
Oh, and not to mention House members, yeah. Oh, yeah. 4 more senators.
Wow. But, we've already, the battle was lost years ago, frankly, when the left took over the public school systems and the teachers' colleges as well and began to indoctrinate everyone in the glories of socialism and big government. And so it's not surprising to me that everybody is just kowtowing to this media propaganda about the COVID-19. And, of course, and even conservatives are going along with that because of the improper honor that they give to the medical establishment, which is ruthless. There are doctors that are being prosecuted for countering the official narrative, for saying that masks don't, and in Friday's brief coming up, I'm going to have all the documentation of the double-blind studies that have been done with masks showing there is no difference. They do not protect against viruses. And, the falsified statistics, the false lie about asymptomatic people, this whole thing is a lie. The second wave is a lie, and they continue to falsify the death rate. Just incredibly evil, and they are blocking people. Dr. Cohen, a very prominent doctor who treats cancer with natural methods, etc., was threatened with his license and he was shocked to find in California, it is illegal to treat cancer with anything but chemotherapy and radiation. Can you imagine that?
That's right.
They've made it illegal. And, of course, it's not because that was ever a piece of legislation. They simply give all the power to legislate those things to the state medical board, which is controlled by Big Pharma.
Right.
And, it's just incredible. That's why people are leaving in droves from California, especially. But there's a fool raised every minute who wants to move to California, and it's getting more dangerous and more liberal all the time as the conservatives leave.
Go ahead, Joel. If the conservatives leave, you were saying what?
Yeah, if the conservatives leave, of course, there won't be any Republicans left in the state at all. And, it's very interesting.
Why would they? Why would they stay? Why would they stay? I mean, if they can get out, why would they stay?
But it's very interesting that even the media is supporting this narrative of dividing California into 2 or 3 states, and every one of those states, those new. Are you still there?
Now you're here. There's some clicks going on.
They'll be dominated by a Democratic-controlled city. Right. Los Angeles to the south and San Francisco to the north. And so you still won't be free. There's not going to be a conservative California. They'll just get 2 more senators in the Democratic fold.
We're really headed toward great violence and/or lots of secessions. They're going to have to secede. People are going to have to get together, like-minded people, and secede. Whether it be a state, a part of a state, 2 or 3 states, I don't know how it's going to work. They'll balkanize this place. People are not going to be able to live adjacent to, next door, or across the street from someone of a diametrically opposite political opinion. They just won't do it.
Yeah, especially when our opinions are not allowed anymore. They're called racist.
They're
banned. They are censored. Yes.
Yeah. I know. It's really bad. A lot of news on the coronavirus front. Dr. Faustus today says coronavirus will never be eradicated. Never. This is a pleasant guy. Did you look at the video at the top of the homepage of Gates? Bill Gates?
No, I didn't.
And Melinda, let me excuse me. Let me play this real quick. It's real interesting when you hear what Gates, who's looking more feminine all the time. He is. He looks like he's just drowning in estrogen. Here.
Well, the idea of a bioterrorist attack is kind of the nightmare scenario because they're a pathogen with a high death rate would be picked. Now, the good news is, I'm not trying to depress.
Did you hear that? He said a pathogen with a high death rate would be picked. That's what he just said.
Yeah.
It went by quickly. I'll replay it.
The idea of a bioterrorist attack is kind of the nightmare scenario because they're a pathogen with a high death rate would be picked. Now, the good news is, I'm not trying to depress you, it's tough enough right now, that most of the work we're going to do to be ready for pandemic 2, I call this pandemic 1, most of the work we'll do to be ready for that are also the things we need to do to minimize the threat of a pathogen with a high death rate would be picked. Pathogen with a high death rate would be picked.
And then part 2.
In fact, the testing could have been ramped up very quickly in a few countries that have almost avoided the epidemic entirely, like Taiwan, New Zealand, Australia. They took their experience and actually prepared, and so they moved a lot faster. So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
Oh, what did he say? We'll have to prepare for the next one, Pandemic 2, and that one will get attention this time, said Billy Gates. Let's listen to it again.
Yeah, this is planned.
Next one,
and
I'd say...
Here it is.
And they're never going to let us free.
We'll have to...
No, that's right.
Prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
And he and his lovely bride smile when he said that. That will get attention this time because the death rate will be far higher.
Will get attention this time.
All right, there it is. He knows exactly what's going on. It's not hard to figure out. Got a great video from that Dr. Vernon Coleman, an older gentleman in England who writes out all of his little video presentations and just speaks them from notes. Very, very interesting. So I'll put that up shortly as well. Okay. So what's going on in your community? Masks everywhere?
No.
What do you see?
Not at all.
What do you see?
Well, in the rural parts of, masks were not made mandatory in Utah, and even though the governor was under a great deal of pressure from a lot of the, deep state organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, which always wedded to the National Chamber of Commerce, and they're pushing masks. But there's no statewide mandate for masks. They are mandating masks for children going to school, and parents are rebelling. There was a major mass meeting at one of the major cities here in Utah, and they said, we're not sending our kids to school with masks. And the school board was adamant, we're not going to accept you, you have to wear masks. And so they said, well, fine, we're going to homeschool then. And there's being a mass exodus from public schools into homeschooling. And that's a great success story, because people finally finding out that the public school system is tyranny. It's not run by you and I. It's not our schools. They're government schools, and they're run by the establishment.
Well, ask Charlotte. She's the one who exposed it all. Charlotte Iserbeat in her book,
yes.
The Deliberate Dumbing Down. Massive overhaul of the schools in the last century to create what we're seeing now. This has all been, again, a long-term plan. They don't rush things. They plan them and they implement them, and it's the frog in the kettle of water. You just don't notice the temperature going up.
Yeah. But let me tell you the new tyranny that's going on in hospitals. I've got a subscriber, a lady who was pregnant and started to have early labor pains. Diagnosed as a detached placenta. She was rushed to the hospital for a C-section, and naturally, they tested her for COVID, and she came up negative. Then she had her baby, a successful C-section. They took the baby away from her, and they tested her again, and she comes up positive. Now, how do you figure? You know, you come into the hospital, you tested negative, supposedly a sterile environment, you come up positive. Well, the test is bogus. That's why they can do this stuff. And now they won't give her baby back to her. She's been out of the hospital a month.
Oh, no.
And until she tests negative, they won't give her baby back to them. I mean, this is absolute tyranny.
No,
you just cannot afford to go to the hospital anymore. They're going to lock you up and throw away the key and make you pay for $1,000 a day in a room that they're quarantining you.
Soviet America. Hold on a minute. We'll be right back with Joel. Okay, here we are. Sorry about that. It'd be nice if I turned the microphone back on. Okay, another story. We've seen this before, Joel. Guns and ammo sales amid the coronavirus pandemic and the civil unrest are surging. We know this. We've seen this before. What other possible outcome could there be? People are trying to prepare to protect themselves. They know they're going to dial 911 sometime, and there will be nobody there to answer it, or there'll be no one there to show up and service the call. It won't happen. It just won't. So they've got to be ready. You know this more than anyone else in America. And when I see these stories, they apparently are some of them alarmist in nature. But my God, it should give people great strength and confidence that the Second Amendment and the Constitution is working. People are able to take measures to protect themselves, their families, and loved ones, and property from animals in the streets. And I'll tell you another thing. It's not just conservatives who are buying the guns and ammo. A lot of the liberals are. The communists will have plenty of guns, legally and otherwise. So they're inching this thing forward to some kind of a conflict. It's going to be big. It's not going to slow down. And I'm just thinking the last 5-6 months of this year and on into next year, and no matter who wins, if that's the right word, no matter who wins the election, there's going to be hell on the streets. And we got food shortages coming, which you know about, Joel. No one's talking about them. There are enormous links in the food chain, the supply chain, that are already broken, and they're not being repaired. So it's just going to get worse and worse, and that's sad to say. I don't like saying it, but it's the truth.
And it's all being driven by this false positive rate. And it's very interesting that on the Cord19 Vespa website, you can do searches for all kinds of medical research that has been doing. And I did a search for false positive rates among asymptomatic, and there's also articles about negative rates. Anyway, there are over 500 articles that have come up about medical research. And here's one from China that says that they have found that with the ribonucleic acid, the RNA test, which is what these quick tests are doing, they've discovered that there's a false positive rate of 80.33%. 80%
oh my!
False
I have not heard that.
Positive, yes. And
that's not an antibody test, right? That's the RNA. That's
this is the RNA test. As I've said, the reason it's false positive is because it's picking up any coronavirus RNA.
Thousands of them. Yeah,
that's right, including the common cold. And so, guess what? This was published in WHO, and then upon review, somebody at WHO didn't like it, and it's been withdrawn. So it comes up in the search, and then after that, it's been withdrawn because of the higher ups didn't like the conclusions they were coming to.
Right.
Massive censorship going on, but that's what's driving the agenda. That's what's closing down these meat factories in the South and things. Is everybody's declaring that they're positive, and so you can't run your factory. I mean, this is just a real evil agenda to have a false positive test. That and then having people wear masks as a paying obedience, to the system and
obey.
Yeah.
Obedience. Look, it's not getting. You tell me what you think's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 months to the end of the year.
Well,
what are your senses?
First of all, I do think that their primary objective is to keep the economy on its knees so that Trump does not get reelected. It's
yes,
very rare
absolutely.
to have a president reelected. Now, even though Trump isn't doing the right thing, at least his instincts say something's wrong with this, but he just has no staying power. You know, he came out and repeated this thing that they're lying to us, the CDC is lying. He retweeted that tweet, and now the next day he goes and says we need to follow the CDC guideline and all wear masks. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
We haven't
then he
had
gets up and does
leadership.
This briefing.
No leadership.
Then he does this briefing today, and he talks about that the reason we're having this second surge, you see, rather than challenge the narrative that there is no second surge, he says, the reason we're having this is because we've allowed these Black Lives Matter people, and they're socializing, and they went on vacation during the July 4th holiday, and they were all mixing together, and that's why
he
they're all
said that today?
Yes.
Oh,
and so you see, and the left is just laughing at him because he's not fighting the narrative. He could get reelected easily if he'd come out and say, this is a false narrative. You know, they're lying to you. The test is not valid. They're overstating the deaths. They're assigning deaths that should not be assigned to COVID-19. And there's a lot of people that suspect this. I hardly run into anybody that that is not wearing a mask, this pandemic, ridiculous, and say, yeah, it sure is. I don't know anybody who's sick, and everybody's falling. I mean, I get this all the time. You talk to these people with the mask, say, do you really believe this stuff? Oh, yes, I really believe this stuff. I'm going to die if I don't have a mask on. I mean, it's just like stupid is as stupid does. I mean, this is just incredible what Americans have bought into in their yesmanship to the medical profession. But it's separating out America. It's separating out of those, and it's a smaller minority than I ever thought, people who can see through this when there's a massive wall of propaganda. Now, I think they're going to take us through the election, but I don't think they're going to let up even with Biden or Hillary or whoever's elected. In the place of Donald Trump, they're not going to let up, but they won't attack that president because he will go along in lockstep with everything and keep, they'll start to relax things, but they're going to push for a vaccine. They're not ready to let us be free until this vaccine comes. And you're going to see this vaccine ready by the end of the year, or you're going to see the president push the vaccine, and he's going to push for a mandatory vaccine. And it's going to be a lockstep.
That's going to be the end. That'll be the
Congress.
end of Trump. Goodbye.
Yeah.
No,
now,
Americans
Trump has come out
should
and said
never.
He's not for a mandatory vaccine, and but he'll. But in the same breath, he'll say, I recommend everybody get it. Stupid. Really stupid.
That's
Trump
right.
is not going to get reelected unless he fights this thing, and I don't think he's got the knowledge base to fight it. He certainly doesn't appear to have the knowledge base.
He's under the influence of Jerry Kushner. We all know that. Kushner cost him at least 2 months in the beginning, January, February, and March, part of March, when he could have been doing things about this virus. He didn't. Kushner said, don't worry about it. That's the inside story. And I think Kushner is still wielding a far too much influence over this president. He has slipped from sight. You don't hear his name anymore. He's deliberately lying low. But do not underestimate that power from that guy. He's in fact, I don't know if I should even mention. I won't mention names, but somebody who's a friend of Trump's, who's been in the news recently, told directly someone I know that Jerry Kushner and the princess are running Trump to a very substantial degree. And I'll leave it at that. That came right. I'll tell you off air, but I don't want to go on the air with this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would have my doubts about it, and just because I know that there's been a falling out, though, between Trump and Jared Kushner recently. And so...
I don't know that to be true. I read it. I just don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, I know. But there's evidence on both sides. That's the trouble. Nobody really knows what's going on in the White House except the Democrats.
No, they don't.
Yeah. There's no sources on our side in the White House. There are people who claim to be that are spreading disinformation to Alex Jones and others, but nobody credible that I know of on our side that's in the White House watching out for us.
Oh, I agree. All right, let's talk about Trump, Pompeo, Esper, and all this anti-China threat and rhetoric and the South China Sea. How volatile is that situation down there, and how volatile do you think it may get?
Well, that's a good question. There's more than one now predicting war within, months with China, and I don't think they're ready for that yet. But, the U.S. closed the Chinese consulate in Houston.
Oh, that's big.
Spying. Yeah. Look, all of the embassies of China are spy
They're all
systems.
spies. All of them.
Why close down one? Of course, and there were fires. They were burning up a lot of papers and stuff so that they couldn't be bad. So, yeah. Why we tolerate China, it's just incredible. But we will. This is for the masses to be able to be anti-China right now. But the globalists continue to placate China because they want China's war. And, all of this attack on China is used in China to beef up anti-American sentiment from Xi Jinping, and Putin is using the same thing to build up anti-American sentiment there. So we provide the provocations, and they continue to build this patriotic fervor among their people to attack the United States, but I still don't think they're ready. We're going to see a lot of saber rattling in the East China.
There could be a mistake. There could be an accident. That's obvious. Taiwan. Would China try it, knowing or thinking, with all their spies and everything, that Trump wouldn't go to full-blown nuclear war to save Taiwan? That China would have to absorb some nuclear hits from Taiwan, which obviously has weapons. They may lose Shanghai, or who knows? Is it that important to them, or is it more of a symbol to keep just beating up?
I think it's a symbol to continue to justify getting ready for war over the Taiwan issue. In other words, it's using Taiwan to generate the anti-American feeling within China. But I still don't think they're going to take China until the war starts. I still think that the likely trigger event is not an open, aggressive move by China as that would be in Taiwan, but sicking North Korea on South Korea and then daring the U.S. to intervene, which they'd have to use tactical nukes to stop the overwhelming superiority of the North Korean military. And that would trigger World War III. China would say, you started it, first use of nuclear weapons.
Oh, and they'd be right, unfortunately.
I'll tell you, China has a grudge match. They're going to take Japan, the Philippines, Taiwan, clear down, including Australia and New Zealand.
That's Greater China, huh?
Yeah, that's what they want. They want that wall of islands.
That's the empire.
A major defense. That's right, to keep the U.S. at bay during this war. And it's going to be a major wake-up call to those Australians who have placated China for so many decades. They've sold all the mineral rights in Australia to China. And you can bet China's going to occupy...
Hold on. Say that again? The Australians have sold all of their mineral rights
to China.
That's suicidal. That's insane.
It guarantees that China's going to occupy the country to make good on those contracts during a war.
Oh, my. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew Australia was having problems with reality, but that takes the cake. Wow.
Yeah, it's really serious, and that's why I've downgraded Australia in terms of relocation and strategic relocation. And New Zealand, too. They lost their gun rights after that phony Muslim shoot-up there.
Yep.
The lesbian prime minister just gave it all away in one fell swoop. I had several people, including a highly paid, highly respected commodities trader who moved to lock, stock, and barrel. Several people, against my advice, moved to Australia because it was going to be the nirvana, the safe place out there. They've all moved back to the U.S. Handwriting on the wall. Yeah.
Yes. No, I can't even imagine recommending either place as a safe refuge. And there have been some big Hollywood heavy hitters with film directors. I can't remember his name, producer. Anyway, he built a big underground. A lot of them went down there in New Zealand. And good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's it's the same thing with this Vivos underground survival condominium, in the Midwest of the United States. Can you imagine, depending on a corporation and its employees to show up during a nuclear war to let you into your condo when you've traveled and not have 1,000 people at the entrance waiting to get in. I mean, it's just a nightmare.
Meanwhile, they got, what, $500,000 of your money or something?
Yeah. So it's just not going to work. People need to prepare for war, but they need to do it individually and with privacy and not try to do it as groups, which always get infiltrated. I cover a lot of that in strategic relocation.
Wow.
And I finally got Amazon. I finally got Amazon to lift their ban on me.
What'd they say?
The listing on strategic relocation, 4th edition, went up on July 3rd. It sold 30 copies, and they took the listing down without explanation. And so we noticed it. 3 or 4 days later, they came back and said, we'll look into it. 3 or 4 days later, you didn't fill out this little blank when you made your listing.
Oh, right.
As if that justified taking it down. So I filled in the blank, and I put in, a start date and an ending date, and then they came back with an excuse about inventory wasn't high enough. So I changed the inventory. And then we went on, and finally I said, you guys are giving me the runaround. This is ridiculous. And they won't let you talk to anybody. It has to be through email. And so they can delay. Well, here it is almost, 3 weeks later, and they finally reinstated after I made some very threatening, statements as a journalist and, what I could say about Amazon. And they finally reinstated it without explaining to me anything. And my final comment to them before they reinstated it was, you talk about this team that you've got assigned to my thing, and it's been a week now, this team. How difficult is it to simply, with a click of a mouse, reinstate the listing? Well, they knew I had their number, and they reinstated it. It doesn't take a committee to do that.
Let's tell everyone this. Joel's, I forget which edition. I think I have number 2.
You got the 2 or 3rd, or 2nd probably, but the 3rd was a major change with all the colored maps and other things. It was a major upgrade. And the 4th is a complete upgrade in all of the data to current. That was nearly 10 years old from the 3rd edition.
Yeah,
so all the data has been updated.
Yeah, I'd like to get an updated copy for sure. I do. I want to get that.
Yeah, I will send you one,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
But anyway, the big thing is that I've started to cover the COVID monster. It was a shock. I just didn't see it coming. I don't know how anybody could see it coming. It just seems so that they would manufacture a pandemic and falsify the test and falsify the death rate and falsify this and that. And wow, it just shows how big and powerful the deep state and how interconnected it is to people. I mean, we are living through one of the largest worldwide deceptions ever seen. It makes the Holocaust look like a pittance. It makes World War II. It makes 9/11 look like a pittance. The massive amount of coordination around the world to drive this agenda and falsify this pandemic and get everyone to wear a mask.
And that's why most of the sheep just can't even begin to deal with it. They can't. It's too big.
How could the whole world be wrong?
No, correct. Hey, look, you and I are professionals at this. We've been doing this a long time. And it is everything I can do every day to try to keep up with the amount of information, to sort through it and to figure out what's reasonable, what I should run, what I shouldn't run. And then rewriting the headlines. I
have the same problem, Jeff.
I know you do.
It's an avalanche of information to go through every day. And, subscribers will send me, watch this 2-hour video, Joel. And I don't have time to watch a 2-hour video. You got to give me a synopsis or something.
I've mentioned this before. I post 100 to 150 in that range stories a day, usually most in the evening. It's like an evening newspaper, end of the day. And I don't have time to open and read those stories. I have to go on the source. I have to go on the headline, the content. I'll look at it. Maybe I can catch a paragraph. It's just hard. And so I make mistakes. There's some of them in there are turkeys. But most of them are worth your time. There's about 3-4% maybe that I would rather not post, but it's okay. That's an allowable margin of error, I think, given the amount of material that Joel and I and others in this business who are honest about it are facing every day. It's just overwhelming. I can go to the screen and open up the computer any time of the day or night, and the deluge just doesn't really stop anymore, Joel. It used to stop overnight. It just keeps coming in. It keeps moving.
I have researchers and faithful subscribers that send me information, and like you, they don't analyze it. They just say, "Here it is," and I get over 300 emails a day with sources and other things, and I just don't have time to. If I have to be able to read something, so I can scan things rapidly and find out if it's taken. But the worst thing is a video where somebody talks out and they take 5 minutes to introducing and talk about something. I just don't have time for that. I mean, get to the facts. Show what's real, and but we do get the truth eventually. And fortunately, it keeps coming back. If you miss it one time, and if it's good enough, somebody else will send it to you, and then you say, well, maybe it's worth a look. And so,
that's exactly right. Oh, that's you. Oh, yes, we're on the same page. I got some great people out there. Yeah.
But in the brief, you see, I'm expected to give my own analysis of these things. I don't just throw out the articles and say, read them. I say, okay, I have to sift through, I edit, I put down, this is the
you're writing a mini book every week, is what you're doing.
Yeah. Well,
it's a small little book.
16
with
pages.
Big information.
Not including Andrew's prep tip, which is one of the most popular things in the brief, is that my son Andrew, the engineer, puts out a preparedness tip, and they are popular with people. I mean,
very nice.
He's got some really good stuff and it's usually positive, and it's productive, it's helpful, so it's in contrast to the bad news that I write about.
The bad news. Bad news.
Well, it's my commentary on a sad world, but if people want to get a free sample copy, they can email me at editor@worldaffairsbrief.com.
That comes out on Friday. That's 2 days from today, and it's a great way to roll into the weekend. You get a total analysis of the week. It's distilled, it's assimilated, it's perfect. World Affairs Brief, Fridays. Free copy for you. All you have to do is ask. Write to Joel at editor@worldaffairsbrief.com, and he'll send you one. I've got a new video from Dr. Vernon Coleman, the older gentleman in the UK. Who
yes,
speaks.
I saw that. You gave me. Yeah,
did I send that to you today?
Yes, you did, and I saw it.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, he's excellent. Look for he's up near the top of headlines, which are going up momentarily. Dr. Vernon Coleman. He's about number 6 or 7 up there. By all means, take a look. Okay, Joel, thank you for everything, and it's always great to talk with you. And I just wish we could wave a magic wand and make this situation better, but at this point, it's not going to happen.
It isn't, and we've got to prepare for the worst, I'm afraid.
Yes, well said. All right, you be well. Take care. Talk soon.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Joel Skousen. And by all means, do look for the Dr. Vernon Coleman video. It's very well spoken. Agree or disagree. And remember, I put this stuff out, all the news, all the information. It's for you to use however you see fit. I'm not telling people how to think, just asking them to engage in the process. And you all do that brilliantly. All right, we'll be right back. Hang on.